Hello, everybody, and please welcome to the Motor Stardom Show. I'm super excited about this one. It's Tuesday, so you know what time it is, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm excited to have you all here on YouTube, exclusively on YouTube. We've been on all sorts of platforms over the weeks, but now we will bring the fun, bring the action strictly over to YouTube. So excited. Big show tonight. Lot to talk about. Obviously, another race on Prime, Nashville. We got Michigan coming up. We got a NASCAR bracket challenge coming up as well. But primarily, we got Ricky Stenhouse Jr. joining us tonight on the show. Very excited about that. I'm going to bring in Stephen Malazzi here, who is, again, dressed for the occasion 2 weeks in a row. Obviously, last week we had the iRacing episode where we were all dressed pretty formal attire. And this week, you got a blazer going on.
I know. It's a new job, man. It's a new job. I can't show up to the office wearing t-shirt and sweats. So I'm a big lawyer guy now, apparently. So I've traded the fire suit for a different kind of suit. Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, you are a big lawyer guy. So I'm proud to have you here on the stream. We also will be joined by Chris Gollin as well, writer for motorstardom.com. We're working through some technical issues to get him in here, and Mason Maggio is working through health issues. He will not be here tonight. So for those obviously that are excited to see Mason Maggio's glorious face and smile and presence, aura, voice. Unfortunately, Mason Maggio will not be here tonight, but obviously wishing us, words of wisdom before the show. So always excited to have him here, but he will be dearly missed. I believe this is the first show Mason Maggio has missed, right?
Yes.
You missed
so far our count. Well, I joined in for a second too.
Yeah. You said hello.
I was deathly ill. But I came in for 60 seconds, said hello, and then popped out. But so far, the Maggio Malaz counter is 1-1. Maggio had an interesting weekend at Nashville.
He did,
but decent run for him in that team. Ended up, I think, 28th.
Yeah,
fought through being sick, fought through some on track drama, but in the end of the day, pretty good for Maggio. I think he was in his Flitz polished Ford Mustang.
He was.
Support from Density Energy. So
yes, good Density Energy was on the car, and Density Energy is also a proud sponsor of the Motor Stardom show here. Obviously, get your Density Energy pouches wherever you can find your Density Energy pouches. And finally, Chris Gollin has made it. I guess your MacBook just doesn't want you to be in here, so I imagine you joined off your phone, right?
Yes, I'm on my phone now.
All right, good.
Trying to get this all set up. Probably.
Steven, I don't think you've officially met him. I don't know, but this is Chris Gollin. He is our skin and bones. He is the man behind motorstardom.com as far as the pumping out amazing articles goes, and insight as well. So pleasure to have you boys meet each other here on this fine Tuesday evening.
Looks really familiar. I don't know why. I feel like we have met Chris, but I don't know that we have.
He's got a New York logo. Maybe probably Daytona.
Yes, it was Daytona. That's exactly where it was. That makes sense.
Yeah, I stood there like holding the camera on like the stage.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's right. You have met Chris Gollin.
I knew you. I was certain that we've met before, so I'm glad that's confirmed.
Because I didn't buy a tripod. I bought whatever you call it, a single pod. We were doing if anyone doesn't know, we were doing a live stream at Daytona with Frankie Muniz, Stephen Malazzi, and Mason Maggio. So big stuff, right? 3 huge names there. And I didn't buy the right tripod for the live stream. So we had Chris holding it on top of the Daytona fan zone. And then we got a crowd once Frankie came in there, we got a crowd watching us. It was the biggest live Motor Stardom show crowd we've ever seen. Hopefully, maybe when we go back to Daytona, hopefully we will have some fun to do. So hopefully Steven will come down here, but really excited for tonight, really excited for the episode. And obviously when you have a weekend like we've had, at least the last 2 weeks, I mean, we're talking about Amazon Prime being new to the sport. We're talking about getting into the summer months of NASCAR Cup Series racing, which we're deciding the playoffs here, which we'll talk a little bit about. We're also getting towards the bracket challenge. We're talking about the bracket challenge. We are now seeding for that bracket challenge. These next 3 races will seed, and then we will be eliminating as we go into the summer on TNT. So any last remarks before we bring in our wonderful guest here?
Yes. Let's talk about that, because I don't think out of all the things we have to talk to Stenhouse about, I'm not sure the bracket challenge will be one of them.
Probably not.
Because there's a long list, right? There's a long list of things you could ask. Why? We have points. Why are we using 3 races to determine the bracket for the? That would be like if the NBA picked the 3 games before the bracket, the win-loss record from those 3 games, to determine the seeding for the in-season tournament. Why would we do that? What is the thinking? Like, what is the thought process behind saying, yes, we're gonna do a 5-round tournament, but we're going to use 3 races out of the season to determine the seeding for that only 5-round tournament, right? Like, what am I missing something? Am I the idiot? Like, is there some greater, deeper passion for Mexico City, Michigan, and Pocono that's like, we should do these 3 races as the points? Like, what's the deal? What do we think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we will certainly see. I mean, to me, you know, I always love the summer portion of NASCAR. And, you know, I wasn't the person that felt like it needed something. I think this is when you get down to the nitty gritty, you see who the contenders, who the pretenders are. And it's honestly a fun part of the schedule. I feel like people hate on it, bash on it a little too much. I enjoy some, you know, nice little race at Pocono. We used to have New Hampshire in the summer months. Obviously now it's moved back later in the year. Mexico is going to be a lot of fun. Going to Chicago, personally, just being from there, it's going to be a lot of fun. But we're going to see how that all goes. We'll see how these next few weeks go, and they're going to be crucial for this 47 team. So without further ado, it was an interesting weekend at Nashville. Hopefully it's a great few weekends ahead. 2-time Xfinity/Nationwide Series champion, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Welcome to the show. How you doing, my friend?
How's it going, guys?
I love the backdrop you got there going, my man.
Oh, thank you.
Where are all those helmets from? You got like some NASCAR helmets. I know obviously you've done dirt racing.
So start at the top. That one over there is my dad's. That one at the very top. And then that's my first go-kart helmet, some sprint car helmets. And then just kind of on down the line of when I raced for Tony Stewart and his USAC team. There's one of my first NOS helmets. So kind of in chronological order there, but I've got so many helmets sitting around here that I was like, man, I got to display them somewhere. So this off season I was bored and threw those up.
Running out of room on that wall, huh?
Yeah.
Do what?
I said you're running out of room on the wall. It looks like. Huh?
Yeah, I don't know. I got some on shelves over here. I don't really know what else I'm gonna do yet. So, helmets are kind of my thing, and then I'll also the suit collections. I got one of every suit I've ever ran. So, like if you get 2 or 3 Best Buy suits from back in the day, I got one of kind of every sponsor. So from every year. So those are piling up as well.
Yeah. And those were certainly the classics from back in the day. You've had a great storied career. And I think to be at the point where you are this season, brand new team, right? Somewhat, right? New rebrand. Things are new. You kind of get a fresh start. And you guys have been the quiet, that quiet team that maybe people probably haven't been talking about enough until we got into this weekend. Then, of course, the events that transpired happened, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, just detail what this season has meant to be up there running. Not just, hey, we're up there a little bit on strategy in stage 2. Hey, we're up there. But you guys are up there on speed and finishing these races, obviously, but finishing them well.
Yeah, I mean, that was the bum part about this past weekend is just not keeping our, DNF streak alive of no DNFs, but it's part of it. You'll move on and go to Michigan, but no, I mean, what our team has been able to do this year is, for me, I kind of reset and told my guys, this week is, if we were 14 races in before the start of the season, if you'd have told us we're, only 6 points out, we would have taken that all day long after the season that we had last year. We struggled. 2023 was a great season for us. I think we averaged in the regular season close to like a 14th place finish. So, we had better speed, I felt like, in 23. Fast forward to 24, and we just kind of struggled to find our footing. We were making mistakes, didn't have the speed, didn't have the handling, and just, was a bad year for us. And so this offseason, like you said, we got a new rebrand. The competition side didn't change, at Hayek Motorsports. So it was more just, the front office and marketing side, which is stressful, trying to figure out how you're going to, pay for a race team to run up and down the road is kind of stressful. So, those guys have been working really hard, and we got great partners. So going into the season, it was all about just executing and doing our part and not shooting ourselves in the foot. And we've been doing that, for the most part. So we've had a couple penalties here and there that we've, had setbacks from, but we were able to bounce back and, miss wrecks and put ourselves on the lead lap at the end of these races. And, we've had some good cars to run up. And when we have good cars, we've, ran up in the top 10, got a couple top 5, couple top 10s out of it. So, we'll take the advantage. We'll take advantage of those races that we have the speed. And then the days that we don't, you just kind of grind it out and try and finish as best you can. And we've been doing a good job at that. So proud of the team. And, I think over the last 2 weeks, we had better speed than we've had. I would say actually the last month, Kansas, we weren't great, but we weren't terrible. Texas, I felt like we had a solid car. Nashville, I think we were like 32nd on speed in 2024. So for us to qualify 13th, 11th at Charlotte, and then, run inside the top 20, right around 15th for the time that we were in the race. That was something that I thought we made an improvement on. So not all was lost this weekend.
Yeah, and it's certainly the DNF streak was it's not something that, I don't think there was any lists out there yet at this part of the season, but then when I saw that statistic where they were like, not only was this an unfortunate incident, obviously for the 47 for how much momentum they had, but first DNF of the year. I mean, I was like, damn, and you guys were off to a pretty good start, because where were you running right when that happened? We
were 16th, 17th, I think, somewhere around there. So I don't know where we would have finished. I felt like there was still maybe a couple cars, behind us that I felt like were probably a little faster at that point of the race anyway. Seemed like from there on, though, a lot of the cars that were strong early in the race seemed to kind of lose their handling, and we were wearing out our right rear tires really bad. Later in the run, it was, the tires stayed the same forever, and then all of a sudden the right rear tire just started wearing out really bad. So, and that's when the passing started, and so it looked like a lot of guys lost their handling, and, who knows what the nighttime would have done to our car. I think the balance and setup that we had and the package that we went there with, I think the nighttime would have favored us a little bit. So who knows? I do know that we made an improvement from last year. And so taking the positives out of the weekend, that was one of them.
Yeah.
That's definitely good to see. Steven, if you want to jump in here.
Yeah. I was going to definitely an impressive year, man. I mean, kind of kicking ass in the 47. It's one of the few single charter teams left in the Cup Series, right? Yeah, that's impressive stuff, But I was kind of going to ask, and shifting topics a little bit here, talking about, the next gen car, how the aero has changed. You've been known as a super speedway expert, really good on these super speedways. And we've seen a very different style of plate racing with the next gen car. Talk about the mentality change and how that sort of has that helped your advantage on speedways, has that hurt your advantage on super speedways, and how you sort of had to shift your style to adapt.
Yeah, I mean, we still find ourselves up front. Obviously, we got, a couple wins with the next gen car, but, It is very different. We were saving fuel in the old cars as well. We were just doing it single file around the top instead of doing it, 3 and 4 wide. So, definitely things have changed a lot, but, we still find ourselves towards the front. And I think the biggest thing that has changed in super speedway racing is, for one, the strategy on top of the pit box. It is stressful for our engineers and crew chiefs trying to calculate how much fuel we have, how much fuel did we get in it, how much did I save throughout the run. And, because you're always balancing, we all might be saving fuel, but we're all still trying to keep our track position at the same time. So, you'll see guys get their track position early and then start saving. Well, then all of a sudden they find themselves in, 25th again. And so there's definitely an art to saving enough fuel and keeping inside that top 10-ish, kind of running position, to come down for your pit stop. Because, if you can all come down pit road, it's not like Nashville where you're trying to pit by yourself. You got a group of guys going down pit road. If you can take a second less gas than them, that's what won us at, the race at Talladega is, we came down with cars that were in front of us, but I got to pit road really good. We took a second less fuel. So I left pit road in front of them and they were pushing me. And then, I missed that wreck on the back straightaway because we were on the front row of that. So, I think that strategy part of it has changed a lot. And it's kind of stressful for those guys on top of the pit box. But it makes, the drivers, coming to pit road that much more important, trying to get out in front because there is less passing that goes on once everybody is, full throttle. So, I think for us at Hayek, I feel like we have a really good package that races well. We'll never qualify better than, 28th maybe. On super speedways, we're looking, if we get in the 20s, we're pumped. We have thrown everything at it. We've set on all 4 stops. We've, low air pressure, high air pressure. We've done everything, and we've qualified from 30th to 34th, depending on how many cars are in the race. So it's something that we're scratching our head at. I mean, for our team's just kind of spirits for the weekend and in pit selection, qualifying better would be nice. But no, I don't think it's really changed my driving style or taken anything away from you. It's just added a lot to it.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to look at it. I mean, it's different. Like you look at every variation of car that we've had, and I feel like you see a huge difference between kind of how the plate racing, when people compare the Xfinity racing now to the old, how the Gen 6 used to race kind of the beginning phases and what Austin Hill's able to do.
I will say to that point, I think if you get to the front, it's easier to stay there, if that makes sense. So I've watched races from 2017 when we won our first race at Talladega, Daytona. I mean, there was points in time where I was 6, 7 car lengths, maybe 10 car lengths in front of the field. And then all of a sudden they have a huge run and I have to figure out which lane I'm going to block. Right. So, you never get that far out. And so I think blocking is a little bit easier because the runs are slower and they're not coming from as far back. Now, that being said, that just, in our mind, it lets us be more aggressive, and that's why there's still crashes, right? So, if there's an outside lane that's, 7 back from me with our old school cars, there's no way I'm going to block it, right? I can maybe make a move, but they're still going to end up, shuffling me out. And so now, the moves aren't, the lanes aren't coming as quick. So last second, we're jumping up in front of it, and then eventually causes a wreck somewhere.
Yeah. And I guess a quick follow-up to that. Is it more challenging to race for a single car team at these super speedways because you don't really have, Hendrick's got 3 other guys in their team that they can work with, right? Meanwhile, Hayek's got you, and you got to be a superstar on your own there. What kind of challenge does that add for you?
Yeah, I kind of guess I missed, highlighting that. I mean, it is definitely a factor. So, at some points it's easy, right? Like I don't have teammates to worry about. I can make the moves that I want to make, that I feel like I need to make to keep me, either going to the front or staying at the front. Yeah. Now, when it comes to pitting, it's very difficult. So the way most of the time Chevrolet does it is you got your key partners, your, Trackhouse, RCR, Hendrick, and then it's like, hey, Spire, Colleague, Hayek, y'all pit together. And, the kind of, we call them pro teams. They get to pit together and they talk. Well, then all of a sudden, it starts changing because now you want to pit, as you get later on into the run, you want to pit with people that need the same amount of fuel as you do. That way you don't leave pit road strung out. So, if the 9 of Chase has to take 2 seconds more fuel than me, I don't want to pit with him anyway, because I leave pit road, I'm going to be out there by myself waiting for him to draft up and catch me. So, it is on the fly, changing every single lap. It was a little bit difficult for us at Talladega this year, or the last Talladega. I was kind of going to pit with, the Hendrick cars. I was kind of following Kyle, and he was in the outside lane. So I moved up in the outside lane. He was a car, and there was a car between us. And then all of a sudden he moved to the bottom lane. And then by the time I get in the bottom lane, it's in front of him. And then he got back in the middle lane. So it was just kind of chaos. It's always changing, but definitely a big factor in how the race goes. So on one hand, yes, it's tough. On the other hand, makes it kind of easier to make your own moves.
Yeah, I'm glad that Steven, that you brought up working with a one-car team, because that was something I wanted to ask you about. I watched your crew chief, Mike Kelly, talking to Davey Siegel recently, and he talked about how for him, he said it as trying to get 25 people who build the race car and manage the race car pulling in one direction is a lot easier than getting 300 or 400 people to pull in one direction. And from your perspective as the driver, do you find it that it's with smaller organizations typically being treated as a disadvantage in most respects in NASCAR? Do you find any benefit in having, say, fewer cooks in the kitchen on race week?
Yeah, I mean, I was just actually, Carl Edwards asked me a really similar question. He called me actually earlier this week, and obviously I've been part of the big teams. I've been in our competition meetings, and you got one driver that says this, you got one driver that says this, and then you got a couple drivers that might kind of say the same thing. And so you're building your cars and you're searching for something on the engineering side for everybody. For me, it's every weekend, hey, what do you need? What's the car need? And we focus on that. So we don't have a lot of different agendas that we're trying to essentially fix in the race car. So yeah, it is definitely easier to get everybody to buy into that. That being said, it's really difficult on the weekends when, we have an alliance with Hendrick. We get a little information from them, but it's very filtered. And so you got to kind of pick through what you feel like is, what they're doing or more accurate, and then just kind of go from there. And so for us, something that I think's helped us in the last month is, if we have a good car in practice and I feel like I'm close, we have a couple of adjustments, either to loosen it up or tighten it up, that my engineers have worked up. We come in, we make a big change and kind of give us another data point so that after qualifying, we go sit in the trailer again as a single car team, and we at least have 2 data points, even though we don't have teammates. So that gives us a little bit of all right, hey, that tightened the car up. Charlotte, we made a really good change in practice, and I was like, that's what I need. Let's try and get a little bit more if we can get aggressive with it. And so that's kind of how we've been working it at the racetrack, and it's definitely helped. But yeah, I mean, it's just like the super speedway racing. It's, some days it's a benefit. Some days you'd love to have a teammate.
Yeah. And I think in certain cases, right, super speedways, great to have a lot of people, on your team. But I think in situations, maybe like this past weekend at Nashville, it's interesting, some people get in incidents and they got teammates to back them up, right? you just got yourself, and we'll segue over here to the Nashville incident we had. I want to put up first a tweet because I thought this was hilarious. I was going through your tweet and I saw this guy.
Yeah.
Say good back, Ricky, blah blah blah.
Hey, I like Spartan races, by the way.
How about you? Your Spartan races, buddy. But we will go roll the clip here. Obviously, we've had a few days to digest it. Everybody has, so early in the race as well. So it kind of took till after there. But people will talk about it. Even Denny was talking about it. Denny said a bad word on his podcast. I saw that clip.
Yeah.
Too. Denny said a bad word. We won't say what it is, but we'll roll the clip here. And obviously, this is from the host of our viewpoint. Driving in there, and then as you can see, the point where unfortunately the hopes for the 47, which the NASCAR always historically looks beautiful. It
looks so good. I hate that we got it tore up.
Always,
so like
break
the biggest thing, at least from my perspective of the whole situation, and this was before looking at data, before looking at anything, right? Like you have in your mind what kind of went on, what happened. So like the 77 to me, he had just rolled around the 38 on the outside. And he actually tried to dive bomb me 2 laps before this from like 7 or 8 car lengths back. And I like looked in my mirror because it kind of caught me off guard. I was like, man, that's odd. Like he wasn't even close. He had no run, just, wasn't even close. And so I guess I should have known it was coming. And he, 2 laps later, he ran the top of 1 and 2, got a little run down the back stretch, but never got to my inside. And so, I just was going to run the corner like normal, and he was offset left. So I saw him in my mirror and I knew that he was, at least making me look. And a lot of times guys do that. Hoping that I'm looking in the mirror and I, overdrive the corner, miss the corner, slide up off the bottom, and then, he's able to have his lane and drive up underneath me. Me looking at the data that I get to look at, he drove it in there, way further than he had, the previous lap. And, it was just, I think he said it, he was pointed left, hoping that my spotter would say he was inside. And, he never got to the threshold of crossing my bumper at any point. So, I guess I see what he was trying to do, but at the same time, we're stage 2. He had started in the back. He's already up to, 17th, 18th spot, and he's plenty fast. I mean, he's going to pass me no matter what. And he had just rolled around the 38 on the outside. So, I think for me, just got too aggressive too quick. I mean, if I was holding him up for, 10 laps, I would understand like, hey, like, let me go. I'm all over your bumper, whatever. So that's the frustration part from my end. Earlier in the race, I held Ryan Preece up for 30 laps and he never touched me once. And then finally he got a run and he got to my outside and he passed me. So, Nashville is a track that is very frustrating. Like, it is hard to pass. You can get stuck. I think I saw Denny was like, yeah, I didn't even try and pass the 19 early in the race because, nobody has enough fall off that, the only way you're going to pass them is if they make a mistake. And so I think Carson was trying to probably get me to make a mistake and hoping that he could get to the inside. But yeah, he never did. So that was the frustrating part for me, is getting hit in the rear bumper, not holding him up for, laps and laps before that.
Yeah.
After the race, I believe it was Matt Weaver who asked you, and don't let me put words in your mouth here. If you need to clarify anything, by all means.
By the way, it's hard to hear outside the media center or the infield care center. So I may have answered a question. I don't even know what I answered.
These cars are loud.
You said at one point, I believe you asked if you were planning on confronting Carson after the race. Obviously, people in their head thinking about the All-Star race last year.
Yeah.
And you had said something to the effect of that's too expensive, which made people think of the fine after the All-Star last year.
It's not going to be for reconstruction of my face.
But with all that in mind, I did want to know, have you spoken to Carson since that happened?
No. So, I mean, like, obviously I've been in the sport a long time. If you make a mistake like that, you generally pick up the phone as quick as you can. And, especially if you feel bad about it. I mean, if you don't, you just roll on with it. And, no, I've not got a call from him. So, I think I've talked to his owner. Jeff Dickerson and I are super tight. So, no, I haven't got a call from him. So, to my point, he doesn't really care about it, which, it's fine. If that's the ground he wants to stand on, that's completely fine. But definitely will be something I won't forget. And, if I don't hear from him by the weekend, I'll probably confront him and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. We should have known, by the way, that this was going to happen, that something was going to happen to you this weekend, because we on this show historically have been awful luck. So much so that the week we had Josh Balicki on here, me, Mason Maggio, and Balicki all finished last in the 3 national series in a given week. And we've had this thing where guests will come on and they'll have miserable runs the week.
Luke Baldwin.
What about the week after?
The week after, pretty good, because we had Luke Baldwin on. He got last at Kansas, I believe.
Right.
And he ended up running 3 races at Wilkesboro the next weekend. I believe it was almost, if not all, top 10s, I believe.
Yeah.
Top 15.
Okay.
He had a great week.
I'll take that.
So
we'll try and keep that trend going.
Yes.
Good.
But my follow-up to this was sort of, obviously you said the fine was a big reason for not going to confront him, right? In your opinion, do you think NASCAR's at a point where these young guys should be taught respect in the way that's self-policing by the drivers, or do you think that the sanctioning body does a good job of handling it by instituting fines on guys who go at each other and who recklessly drive?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there's a fine line, obviously. By the way, I left the race before it was over, so that was another reason I wasn't.
You had a way out.
Traffic getting out of Nashville is kind of difficult, so I rolled out early. I don't know. I mean, when I came into the sport, for the tenured guys that were there, the Tonys, Biffles, Carl, Matt, Jeff, Jimmy, Truex, Denny, like, you were scared to run into them, because they were the elder statesmen of our series, and you gave them a ton of respect and just kind of let it go. Now, I mean, there's zero respect for the most part, out there today. So, I think there's a fine line of, what all you should do or be able to do. So, I don't know. I think from what I gathered, me saying I was going to go do something was what kind of resulted in it, and waiting, around the whole race, which I told him, like, I had no choice. I couldn't leave. That kind of like made me more mad, but so I don't know. I definitely think there's, lines that are crossed sometimes, again, like Carson's never done anything, until now to me. Like, I've never had any issue with him. I've watched him, race other people and crash other people. And, there was a lot of people that have reached out that race in our series that say, man, I really hope you do something about it. So, that's kind of funny. I'm not going to name names, but there's a list, so it's interesting that, you got some guys that just, cross that line more often than the others. I felt like for me in my career, I didn't really cross that line very often. I just crossed it one time with, side drafting Kyle Busch at Daytona. And, people think I just wreck people all the time. If I wreck anybody, it's generally myself. I generally just, don't do anything to other people. I mean, I've had my handful of times where I've got into people, but I mean, heck, I've had 450 cup races and a lot of Xfinity races under my belt. So, again, you're going to race with these guys. Something's going to happen at some point. And, it just happened to me this weekend.
Yeah.
And, one thing I've noticed to that extent, I noticed this first when Ross Chastain was having his kind of series of run-ins in, I think it was 22, where for a while there, he was getting in trouble week after week after week. But But at a certain point, I was noticing, like, well, if no one is putting him in the wall and the finishes are coming, I kind of don't blame him for not changing anything.
Yeah.
And it did get people struck back at him. And I think with Carson, if memory serves, the only time I can remember someone distinctly retaliating was, I think, Corey Heim at Phoenix and Trucks. So from, I don't know what you think about that, but to me, I at it, drivers like that, and it's like, until someone does step in, I don't know if I see the incentive for them to race.
Totally agree. I think you hit the nail on the head right there. Is it, if nobody's going to do anything, why would you change? And so, I think the Ross piece is a lot different. I mean, we were running 17th, in stage 2. The things that Ross was doing he was battling for wins. I mean, that's important stuff to me. Like, wins are big in this series. And so when you're battling for wins, I think things are maybe a little bit different. You can be a little bit more aggressive. Like, you're going for the win. Passing me for 17th in the, beginning of stage 2 has nothing to do with, trying to win the race. And so, no different than the Kyle Busch thing at the All-Star race. We were, 10th or 11th on the first lap. So, but I do agree that, if nothing is done about it or definitely confronted, nothing will change for sure.
Yeah. And I think if something does happen, we saw, like you bring up from Ross in 2022, Denny Hamlin eventually put him in the wall at Phoenix. But then went on the podcast after that and was like, hell yeah, I did it. I put him in the fence, and then he got a fine. So clearly, we've learned. It seems like there's a lot of
can't say what you're gonna do or what you did do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we got your back here. We won't say anything, obviously, and we know you won't. So we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But do you feel like also, and last thing on this incident before we start to get to wrap up here, this next gen car, as far as when you're hitting people, I've always seen is so like it's so bizarre. I don't feel like, what we know, these cars are built so much differently, but a hit where like somebody's door slamming somebody or bumping in the back, I mean, these cars just bounce off each other, and it's insane to where, yes, people feel like they can bump each other now because the cars are more durable, but in a way they're almost not, because it seems like you bump somebody in the wrong way, you break a toe, something goes wrong. Like, do you feel like that has played, the car itself has played into kind of how people race? So they're just like, I'm just going to bounce off the guy in front of me or next to me and move on?
Yeah, I definitely think it does. I think, when I was racing the old school body ARCA cars and the Nationwide Series cars back in the day, I mean, you touch somebody and your day was ruined. I mean, like, if you hurt your right front fender in any way, you were done. The car wouldn't turn. You had no front downforce, and you were just out there riding around. And so now, when we switched to these cars, it definitely gave people more ability to run into each other. At least bumper to bumper, kind of door slam type thing. A lot easier without there being any retribution on your car. So. Yeah, don't want to hit the wall still because toe links are still fragile. But other than that, it's kind of fair game. Like, the car handles, shots pretty hard. So definitely plays a factor into, guys just running into each other like you're at the, K1 go-kart track or something.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. People like to hit each other. I've been there once, and I got I don't know, my neck hurt after. But we will segue here to a little segment presented by Density. We allow the fans to send in questions to our guests. Obviously, there were a lot of questions, a lot relating to a specific incident, but I knew we were going to cover that, so I picked the other ones. Okay, I'm gonna pick one at random here. Some of them were pretty fun. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. I like this one. What's your average mile run time? We know you're a fitness guy. We know you're fit. People that say race car drivers ain't athletes. Look at Ricky Stenhouse.
It depends. Depends on kind of how long I'm going for a run. If I'm going for, 6 to 8 mile run, it's around 7-minute mile. I'm not like a super fast runner. Like, down into the, I think like Jimmy and those guys would run marathons at like 6.5. And that's definitely not me, but I can do a pretty hard, 6 to 8 miles in pretty pretty good. So yeah, I would say around a 7.
Yeah. Okay. We like that. And I'll throw in one more here real quick, because I thought this one was intriguing too. First career truck start. I didn't know. I didn't even research this. You haven't made a truck start?
Never made a truck start. No.
And is it on your bucket list? Because I like to ask people your bucket list of races to do.
Yeah, I've actually talked to Dickerson and Brian Patty about running a Spire truck at some point. We didn't get it done for this year, but I definitely want to run a truck race. I feel like, Patty's truck's really fast. I'd like to get in it and try and I want to win Bristol bad. I finished second there in Xfinity, finished second there in Cup like 3 or 4 times, and haven't made it to victory lane yet. So I'd love to win, at Bristol. Would love to run a truck. So maybe one day next year, we'll get that opportunity.
Yeah, we'll get you reunited with Brian Patty. I mean, Clint Boyer already got to have his fun last year.
That's right.
Nashville. So
I don't know if he had much fun, but he
was he seemed pretty mad actually.
Yeah,
from what I remember, he was pretty angry. But then after, I'm sure he digested a little bit. But we hope to see you in the truck series soon. And then Chris has got a question here about some upcoming races here and the fun branding we'll see in your car.
Yes, I was told that we have some news about the sponsors on your car for Michigan and Mexico City these next 2 weeks, and I just kind of wanted to give you the floor to tell us what's going on.
Like I said earlier, we got a lot of great partners that our front office has been just thrashing on. I mean, it's a big undertaking to take a car with no sponsorship and try and fund it for the year. So obviously, Nostrand Ready to Drink this last week. We've had Sunny D on for I think 8 or 9 races so far this year. Martin's Bread Company, Rate, and then we had Real American Beer on earlier in the year at Las Vegas. They're on the car this weekend at Michigan. And then Fun Pops is back on the car. Same scheme that we ran, I believe, at Charlotte. So they've been a sponsor that's kind of jumped on board and really liked what they see in our sport with all the kids. Like, we'll go out in the campground and give them Fun Pops, throughout the campgrounds and the weekends. And, they're seeing a lot of traction out of it, which is good. So try and keep doing that for our partners. And, I don't know if they're bringing a bunch down to Mexico City. I don't know how that works, but it'll be cool to get down there. I've never been to, Mexico City, and should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Fun Pops. The car, obviously I hate to say this, but it pops.
It does pop.
It pops. Can you explain to me real quick what a Fun Pop is? Like, I'm actually curious. Is it an ice pop? Is it like?
Yeah, just the ice pop in the tubes there. Okay. Plastic tubes. Put in the freezer. Let them freeze up, and there's 10 different flavors. Okay. I'm always a blue kind of guy, so I go with the blue ones. But and handing them out in the infield, I would say blue and red are like the highest. And then I would say grape gets requested the next, the purple. Yeah. And then it's kind of a free-for-all after that.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And then obviously you don't have to explain
real Hulk Hogan. It'd be cool. He almost came to Las Vegas and he wasn't able to. So hopefully he can make it. I haven't heard if he's coming this weekend or not, but that would be sick if he showed up at Michigan this weekend.
At Michigan. Yeah, perfect. I'm sure everybody would have a field day with that one, right? Hulk Hogan.
Oh, yeah.
The week after Stenhouse gets in a little, scuffle with Osimar. You can't get fined if you don't do anything.
That's right.
Yeah,
but then people would be like, well, of course he brought back up. Fans always have something to say.
Hey, we've been a single car organization.
I need teammates.
You're by yourself. So, hey, man, we appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much for coming on. Obviously, best of luck. Like we said, wasn't a great Nashville, but track record is next week. Michigan's going to be a good time. We'll get you. We're going to get you in that.
Hey, Steven, I saw some people were saying like, "Oh, I guess Ricky's not going to Chili's, so I guess I'll go to Outback instead."
Yes, yes. But Ricky, I will give you a blooming onion if I see you at the racetrack. Okay, on me, you gotta go. Let's turn the tides around. I'm going to do more PR for Outback on one race, maybe 2 a year, than Carson does for all of his Chili's races, which. Funnily enough, Carson flipped me off in my debut event because I was like,
whoa. Dang.
Yeah. Right at practice, hits me coming out of turn 13 or whatever at Mid-Ohio and going on the front stretch. Just gives me the good old and all the way down. And here I am thinking,
And I tell you what, him and Todd Gilliland, their arms are so long, they can reach so far out the window. I'm like, they can grab something off the roof. Like when I waved at people, like my hand is barely out of the window.
I think it was Dale Jr. on the Prime broadcast who said something like, if y'all did go at it, he had like a 12-inch reach
I'm not worried
advantage
about
or
that.
something.
Well, I'm pretty sure you and I are like the same height. So if I remember how tall Carson is compared to me, I walked up to him after practice. I'm like, holy shit, he's like a freaking he's freaking huge.
He's hard.
Yeah, I might have to come off the top rope or something. But
right. I just also wanted to say before you go, Ricky, you don't remember this. I do. Very prominent moment in my racing career. I was telling RJ about this earlier because I went back and I found.
I always get nervous where this is going.
Oh, it's really simple. I was like 11 or 12, had never even been in a competitive go-kart yet. My dad knew somebody at a law firm that he used to work at who got me garage passes through a guy named Jim Cassidy and John Cassidy.
Yeah.
They introduced me to, there's one of the photos I took of you starting your car.
Where was that at?
Dover.
Okay.
Got me garage passes, and I met Jack Roush, Richard Childress, Austin Dillon, and you.
That's awesome.
Very nice. And I held it through me throughout my career. So now that I'm kind of in NASCAR a little bit, it's really cool to get to interview and talk to you. You know, one of the guys that I rooted for growing up.
No,
so I always like to share these stories. I have some of them throughout my growing up. So wanted to let you know.
We always take time for anybody that shows up at the racetrack. So
Yep. So go get them next week. Better week than last week. It literally cannot go worse. There's only 30.
That's right. That is very true.
And thanks for coming on. We'll have you on again at some point, hopefully.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, yes, sir. Later on down the road, we'll get back and see how the season goes. So thanks so much,
man.
Talk to you soon. All right, and thank you, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., for coming on and joining us on the show. Obviously, we wish him the best of luck as he approaches the next few weeks. Because, like we said, we have a bad track record before they come on the show. Really bad. Like this is like I literally texted our show group chat. Like when Ricky got wrecked, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Like there is no way. And then Steve, you were hopeful. You were like, nah, he's good. He's coming back.
I totally thought they were going to fix it.
Nope. That thing back. I thought so too, but I watched the replay, the onboard, and I was like, yeah, this thing's done. And so it was last car, unfortunately, for the 47 of
RJ. I was on a first date watching this race. Okay. Like at the end of the first date, we were watching the race. She's like, do you want to watch NASCAR? I'm like, do I want to watch NASCAR? And when Stenhouse wrecked, I was like, bad words that I've already dropped one F-bomb on this podcast. No more F-bombs for today. I did drop the F-bomb big time. I was really pissed because I'm like, man, guests are going to be afraid to come on the show because once it comes out, they're coming on. They're going to be like, it's a 39th place finish coming up. So,
girl on the first date, she offered to watch the race.
Yeah. I don't really know how this always happens on the Motor Stardom show, but we do end up talking about Maggio's not here, so we can't talk about Maggio and women. We got to talk about somebody. But
yes, learn about somebody else.
But when that was honestly a great interview and such a down to earth guy to talk to. I mean, he's not like a small time Cup guy, even though he's on a single car team. 4 Cup wins and 2 Xfinity championships. He is probably a Hall of Famer with the Daytona 500 win, or at the very least, consideration for Hall of Fame status. Not many people ever get to 500 starts, and as long as Stenhouse doesn't lose his ride next year, which doesn't look like he's going to, I'm pretty sure he's got a multi-year contract, he will get to 500 Cup starts. And that's like a massive, massive feat. You think about Denny Hamlin, who's been doing it a few years longer. He's only at 700. So, I mean, lots of it's just that was a great interview. Such a down-to-earth guy. Doesn't have an ego on him at all. Yeah. I really love to talk to him. Conversely, now it feels like we should at some point have Carson Hocevar on to talk about his side of the story, right? Like, I mean, come on, right? Like we gotta share. I'm big in the law now, and the law is all about sharing both sides of the story. That's what it's always about.
Well, look, I come in as a guy, right? That's obviously have gained a buttload of connections through the industry. Thankfully, very blessed. Know a lot of people. But now that I've gotten to the nitty gritty of you guys, I learned that there there are always run-ins on the racetrack and people that you ruffle feathers with and people that you compete against that you may not talk to all the time, that you may not, it's not like beef, but you know, you guys just aren't best of buddies. So there's a few people that I want to get on this show that, you know, maybe not have, maybe aren't best friends with Mason Maggio or Stephen Malazzi.
I think the guy
I like to be able to bury the hatch. You know what I'm saying? Even if there's not a hatch there, you know, I like to be able to just have everybody get along, you know?
I truly only have beef with, I would say in my existence, 2 drivers, and one isn't even with a driver, it's with his brother. And the other one is just, I could not care less about the beef that I have with this guy. I just think he's a jack off. Like, no part of me cares what he thinks. No part of me is interested in having him on the show.
I want to get Daniel Dye on here because
I'm good with Daniel Dye. Yeah, I'm good with Daniel Dye. He did call me an idiot once, but other than that, we're good.
I had a thing with Daniel Dye. I'm not going to get into it. It wasn't him. He didn't do anything, and it was, oh god, I shouldn't get into it. But there was
maybe a later time.
Maybe that's a later conversation.
Maybe.
I'll say this. He's from Daytona area, and I write local news in Daytona area. And it wasn't even racing related. It was completely, but we're good now. We're good now. I've interviewed since, I don't even know if he remembers who I am. But we can make this like a couples counseling show. Whenever there's beef, just bring them both on here.
The guy that I'm talking about, there's no reconciling. There's absolutely zero coming back from that. I mean, yeah, I'm waiting for the day that he flips me off on a racetrack. I'll be 3 seconds slower than him, but I'll be damned. That means I'll see him again when he comes back around to lap me. Okay, I'm ready for it.
It's like when I don't know you. How old are you guys again? I know RJ, you're 22. How old are you, Steven?
24. I'm 20.
24. Do you guys remember the Edwards Kozlowski feud? Like when it was?
Yes, of course.
On Race Hub. After Bob, Brad's dad, gave the interview at Gateway, he had said he wants to get his helmet back on and go out there and take care of Carl himself.
Oh hell yeah!
Jimmy Spencer, who I so miss on Race Hub, he made a comment like, "What are you going to get him while you're running back with Kevin Conway and he's lapping you?" And I know for Bob, he's probably thinking, "Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do."
Yeah, I mean, you give me, what can I say? I guess I give Bob Keselowski vibes. Maybe more Kevin Conway vibes, if I'm honest.
Bob has the land speed record for a stock car, so that's not a bad vibe to give.
Oh, I don't have that. I was more so talking about
John Belushi vibes.
Yeah, I do get to, again, where RJ's pulling up the photo. He's got it ready to go. I mean, I feel like I actually, less than I ever have, look like, I feel like today is the worst day for this because I don't think I actually look like Belushi too much today.
You always do.
But when I have the hoodie on and the super, like, I've been trimming the beard. I don't have the neck beard anymore. It's just wow, we've got a close-up of RJ's face here. It's just,
I was trying to put you.
I got rid of the neck beard a little bit to look a little more professional. Oh, now we got a close up of me here. Yeah.
Blazer on. Looking good.
Should have done this for Ricky.
Yeah, right. We should have probably done that for Ricky, but
it's okay. I got new features now.
Yeah. This is awkward. I hate it. Now I'm in your spot. Yeah, flip that. I'm always in the top right corner. So yeah, good show. What do we got next week planned? We got,
tell me now, remind me, you would know how to say, I don't want to butcher his last name.
See, that's what I was thinking to you. Staropoli? Final answer.
I would assume that's what it is. I think that's what I've heard on a broadcast, and that's what I did hear. Now, if they messed it up, that's their fault, not mine.
Yes. Another very cool story. I mean, another. Again, we're getting a really cool mixed bag so far. We're getting a good mix of guys who are owners and guys who are drivers and guys who are mid-pack and guys who are up front and guys who are lesser known. Like, it's a great mix of drivers, and I think this is an underemphasized story. Really cool and personal to me, because the closest thing probably tangent to lawyer race car driver is eye doctor race car driver. So very excited to have him on next week. We got anything else? Want to say any closing remarks?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, thanks so much for Chris for coming on here and working it out with the Hayek PR. Obviously, as we get into this summer, we're gonna have a range of guests to get on here, and it's gonna be a lot of fun to reveal as well who will be coming on this show. I like a good variety, right? We love to have a Cup Series driver every once in a while, an Xfinity driver, a truck driver, a commentator, or somebody random. I don't know, and we'll be having multiple guests on one show. It's gonna be a very fun summer. I'm looking forward to it. I got a lot more time on my hands as well to go fish out there for guests and to make things happen. But while I'm bashing my head in at doors at Chick-fil-A, Chris is here talking with Hayek and getting Ricky Stenhouse on. So very appreciative of that. I felt like it was a great show. I mean, we got his opinion on Carson. I thought it's interesting, right? Carson has not reached out to Ricky Stenhouse. And did I expect it? Not really. Carson got out of the car. They interviewed him and they said, hey, like, what went on there? And he said he's unapologetic. And then I feel like, maybe as a driver, you go and watch everything and then you reach out, but he hasn't. I don't think he's going to reach out Friday. So
if I were competitive, I don't think I'd enjoy racing against Carson Hocevar. As an outside observer, he is exactly the type of guy that NASCAR needs, though. He really is. At every point in history, you've had somebody that you can villainize because of the way that they race, and you need that. You need somebody who you either love them, and there are going to be people who love Hocevar. I've seen some Dale Earnhardt comparisons, right? Obviously, let's not be dramatic. Dale has 7 championships and 76 race wins, but the point is still there in terms of driving style. You need somebody like that who is not afraid to just be bump and run, unapologetic. I am out there for me. And I think Carson Hocevar can be that guy. Again, if I were to ever competitively race Carson Hocevar, I'm not seeing a lot of him in 29th place or 31st place. But if I were, I'd probably feel very differently about it. And that's probably where a lot of the resentment from the garage is coming from. But from a fan and general sport perspective, absolutely necessary for what we need to grow the sport and kind of keep the fandom alive.
I'm so glad you made the Dale Earnhardt comparison, because I just saw a clip yesterday. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was asked what drivers in the field today remind him of his dad. And the first name he said in that interview is Carson Hocevar. No one more qualified on planet to talk about who is similar to Dale Sr. Jr. And I don't know what makes you more like the Intimidator than if when you show up in someone's rearview mirror, they're sitting there like, whoa, what's he about to do? What is about to happen here? Like to Ricky's point earlier, he wasn't expecting Carson to send it in 7 car lengths back at that one point. Now if Carson's coming 7 car lengths back, now he doesn't have the same mentality. That I don't know what that is, if not intimidation a little bit. Drivers might not think of it that way. He might not be the intimidating kind of figure. But he is one of the last guys I would think you would want to see in your rear view. So in that respect, I totally see where Junior's coming from.
Yeah, I agree. I think Carson Hocevar, from an outsider's perspective, it's what we need. He's also with the times, right? He's streaming, he's doing all this stuff across social medias. He's doing what people, would have done back then, having a personality, not being unapologetic on the racetrack, but also mix it in with a little, whatever you want to call it, Gen Z, social media, whatever. He's out there. Everybody knows the name, or everyone will know the name Carson Hocevar. But yeah, as we wrap up here on time, baby, look at that. Cup drivers make us get organized and on time here on the Motor Stardom
Show the graphic.
Oh, shoot. Hold on. It's down there in my archives.
We're back, baby. Yeah. One time. Here we go.
We are so back. 7:58 p.m. Eastern. We're going to wrap up here. We're going to give everybody a minute left of their time to cheers.
Wait. No, I'm not going to. I just want to say that, I might be back at some point. I'm just saying, nothing to announce yet. There's a chance we're back, baby. We are back. So keep tuned. Motor Stardom Show will be the first one to hear it. So, on that note, roll the outro, RJ. This is Chris. This is RJ. Chris is the guest. He's not usually here. That's usually Mason Maggio. I'm Stephen Malazzi. This is the Motor Stardom Show. We talk about racing every single Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Sometimes we got Josh Balicki. Sometimes we got Tommy Joe. Sometimes we got Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Next week, we got Patrick Staropoulos. So be sure to tune in Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Motor Stardom Show. Thanks for watching.
It didn't get in last week's stream, but shout out Amir Alexander. Shout out Amir Alexander.